She came without a sound. The night air was cold and still as she walked slowly through the tall gates of the military base. No one knew her name, no one knew her story, and she said nothing. Her clothes were worn and dusty, her face tired but with eyes that told 1,000 untold tales. The guards noticed her but said nothing. Something about her silence was powerful, demanding respect without a word. She walked towards the center of the base, where the SEAL team was training. They had never seen anyone like her before. The SEAL leader, a man hardened by years of war and loss, stopped in his tracks when he saw her. There was something different about her, something that spoke louder than any words could. As she stood before him, the leader's gaze fell on her arm. There, inked in black and blue, was a tattoo unlike any he had seen. It was old, faded in parts, but still clear enough to tell a story. The design was of a phoenix rising from ashes, wings spread wide as if ready to fly again after death. The tattoo seemed to burn with hidden pain and fierce strength. He knew this was no ordinary mark. It was a symbol of survival, of battles fought in silence, and scars that were deeper than skin. For a moment, the leader felt a strange connection to the girl. He wanted to ask her about it, to understand the pain behind those wings. But she looked away, her eyes full of shadows, refusing to share even a word. The base was quiet except for the soft steps of the girl as she moved closer. Everyone else watched silently, unsure what to do. The leader stepped forward carefully, his voice gentle but firm. "Who are you?" he asked, hoping to break the wall of silence. The girl didn't respond. Instead, she lifted her sleeve slightly, revealing more of the tattoo that curled around her wrist like a secret message. It was then that the leader saw the faint scars beneath the ink, old wounds that had healed but never forgotten. His heart tightened for reasons he couldn't explain. He realized she carried a story no one was ready to hear, a story too heavy for words. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the base, chilling the night further. The girl shivered, but remained silent, as if waiting for something or someone. The leader noticed the way her hands trembled slightly, hidden beneath the sleeve. He wondered what had brought her here, why she had come alone and wordless. Was she running from something, or searching for someone? The questions piled up in his mind, but he knew that rushing her would only push her away. So, he did the only thing he could. He stayed quiet and watched, letting her presence speak louder than any conversation. As dawn approached, the first light touched her face, revealing the tired lines and the quiet strength in her eyes. She was not just a stranger, she was a survivor, someone who had fought battles that no one else could see. The leader decided to assign a guard to stay near her, not to question, but to protect. He himself would try to understand her story, starting from that tattoo. For now, he respected her silence. He had learned that sometimes the deepest stories are told without a single word, told in scars and symbols that only the brave dare to read. The morning routine of the base went on, but the presence of the silent girl changed everything. The SEALs, trained to face enemies and danger, now faced the mystery of this quiet fighter. Whispers spread among the men and women. Who was she? Where had she come from? And what was the meaning of that tattoo that seemed to burn with secret fire? The leader watched her closely as she sat quietly by the training grounds, eyes lost in thought, as if reliving memories that refused to fade. He knew that to unlock her silence, he would have to show more than commands or orders. He would have to show trust, patience, and perhaps understanding born from his own scars. The day passed slowly. The girl moved like a shadow, careful not to draw too much attention, yet impossible to ignore. When the leader finally approached her again, he brought with him a simple gift, a worn leather notebook. He didn't say much, only placed it beside her and nodded. It was an invitation to share her story, if and when she was ready. She looked at the notebook, then at him, her eyes flickering with something almost like hope before she looked away again. That night, as the base lights dimmed, the leader found himself staring at her tattoo once more. He thought about the strength it represented, the pain, the fight, and the hope to rise again. He understood that her silence was not emptiness, but a shield. Suddenly, the quiet was broken by the sharp sound of footsteps. A young SEAL came running, breathless, with news that a high-ranking official wanted to meet the leader urgently. The leader stood, but his eyes lingered on the girl a moment longer. He knew this was just the beginning of a journey neither of them could imagine. The tattoo was a Kia symbol, and behind it lay a secret that would change everything. He didn't know if the girl would ever speak, but he was ready to listen, in whatever way she chose. For now, the silence remained heavy and full of meaning. The base was no longer just a place of training and orders. It was a silent stage where two broken souls were about to cross paths, one with scars on the skin, the other with scars in the heart. The SEAL leader walked away, mind racing with questions, and a strange feeling of responsibility. The girl watched him leave, her lips barely moving, as if she was speaking to someone far away, someone lost. The tattoo on her arm seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight, whispering secrets of pain, loss, and the fierce will to survive. And in that silence, a promise was born that the story behind the tattoo would soon be told, and the silence would speak louder than ever before. The morning sun was barely touching the horizon when the girl woke up in a small, quiet corner of the base. The leather notebook the SEAL leader had left beside her lay unopened, heavy with unspoken words. She touched her tattoo lightly, tracing the faded lines with her fingers. It was more than just ink on skin, it was a story carved into her flesh, a language only her heart could speak. The pain beneath it was still fresh in her mind, though years had passed since those dark days. She closed her eyes and let her mind drift back to a time when her life was very different. She remembered the small village where she grew up, a place filled with laughter, colors, and dreams. But behind the bright walls, shadows lurked. The war had come like a storm, tearing families apart and burning the innocence of childhood. She was just a girl then, no older than 10, but she saw things no child should see. The village was destroyed, friends vanished, and she was left alone, wandering the ruins with tears and fear. The tattoo was born from that night, the night when she found an old soldier's journal, soaked in rain and blood, and promised herself she would rise like a phoenix, no matter what. She remembered the man who gave her the tattoo, the soldier who saved her from the burning village. He was strong but kind, his hands steady as he etched the wings on her arm with ink made from ashes and hope. He told her, "You carry this mark now. It is your strength, your shield, your story. Never forget it." But soon after, he disappeared into the chaos, leaving her alone again with only that mark and her memories. That was when the real fight began, not just to survive, but to find purpose, to find a place where she belonged. The girl opened her eyes, the memories like flames, burning softly in her chest. She knew the tattoo was a secret language, a message for those who understood pain and loss. It was a silent cry for help, a warning, and a promise, all at once. But here, on the base, no one had asked her to explain. They only saw the mystery, the silence, and the scars beneath. The SEAL leader had looked at the tattoo with a strange mix of respect and sadness, as if recognizing a part of his own broken past. The leader sat in his office, the weight of the girl's silence heavy on his mind. He pulled out a map, tracing lines in places he had known in distant wars. Somewhere out there was the story behind that tattoo, a story he had to find before it was too late. His own scars from battle felt close to the surface now, memories of loss and survival that echoed in the girl's quiet strength. He reached for the notebook he had given her, wondering if she would ever write in it, or if the silence would remain unbroken forever. Meanwhile, the girl wandered the base, watching the SEALs train, their bodies moving with power and precision. She admired their discipline, their courage, but she felt a distance, a wall built from her past and their present. She wanted to be part of something, to belong, but fear and silence kept her locked away. Every glance at her tattoo reminded her of the life she left behind, the people she lost, and the promises she made. She didn't speak, but inside, her heart screamed for a chance to heal. That afternoon, a young SEAL approached her cautiously, carrying a small cup of water. His voice was soft. "If you need anything, just tell us." She looked at him for a moment, the corners of her mouth twitching, as if to smile but stopping short. She nodded quietly and took the cup. The small kindness made her feel less invisible. The base was a strange new world, filled with strangers who didn't ask questions but offered silent support. As evening fell, the girl sat alone under the vast sky, the stars like distant fires. She reached for the notebook and slowly opened it. The pages were empty, waiting for her story, her pain, her truth. She hesitated, then began to draw the tattoo on the first page. The phoenix wings spread wide, rising from the ashes. It was the only way she knew how to speak, through the ink, through symbols, through the language of scars. She pressed the pen harder as tears slid down her cheeks, feeling the first release of years of silence. Back inside, the SEAL leader looked at the tattoo once more, now with deeper understanding. He remembered a mission years ago, in a distant land torn by war and betrayal. He had lost friends, faced enemies who wore masks of kindness, and carried secrets that haunted him still. The tattoo was a link, a bridge between two broken souls who shared the same silent battles. He felt a strange hope that the girl could help heal not just herself, but also the wounds of the past. Suddenly, a call came over the radio, a distress signal from a nearby outpost. The leader's face hardened. The base was no longer just a place of rest but a battlefield waiting to erupt. He looked at the girl, who had put down the notebook and was now standing tall, the phoenix tattoo catching the fading light. He saw in her eyes a fire, a silent promise that the past would not control the future. Without a word, he nodded at her unspoken invitation to join the fight, to face the unknown together. The girl did not speak, but her steps grew steady, her silence louder than any command. The SEALs prepared to move, and as the night swallowed the base once more, the leader knew that this was the beginning of something greater. The tattoo was not just a mark of pain, it was a symbol of strength, hope, and the courage to rise again. And the girl, silent but fierce, was ready to prove it. As they left the base, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the weight of secrets and the promise of redemption. The leader glanced at the girl once more. She still said nothing, but her tattoo spoke volumes about survival, about scars, and about the battles yet to come. And in that silence, a new story began. The journey away from the base was tense and quiet. The girl walked alongside the SEAL leader and his team, her step steady but cautious. The night air was thick with anticipation, every sound sharper in the darkness. The SEALs prepared for whatever danger awaited them, their weapons ready, their minds alert. But none of them knew what the girl's silence really meant. What was she hiding behind those calm eyes and the tattoo that glowed faintly in the moonlight? The leader kept glancing at her, searching for signs. He had seen many kinds of fear and strength, but hers was different. It was a fortress built on pain and secrets. They moved through the forest quietly, shadows blending with shadows, until they reached the outpost. It was damaged, signs of struggle, everywhere scorched earth, broken equipment, and silence that screamed of disaster. The leader's heart sank. This was no ordinary attack. Something bigger was at play. As they entered the outpost, the girl's eyes flickered with something recognition, maybe, or fear. The leader noticed how her hand unconsciously moved to cover the tattoo on her arm, as if trying to hide the symbol from the ghosts around them. He wondered if the tattoo was connected to this place, to the secrets buried here. But when he tried to look at her, she turned away, the wall of silence rising again. They searched the outpost carefully, finding traces of a struggle, bloodstains, hurried footprints, and shattered personal items. The leader's gut told him this was not random violence. Someone had planned this, and the girl's presence might be the key. He found a small metal box half buried in the dirt, locked tight and heavy. When he looked up, he saw the girl watching him intently, her eyes filled with silent warning. But she said nothing. That night, they camped near the outpost. The tension was thick, the silence broken only by the crackling fire and whispered conversations. The leader sat near the girl, holding the metal box. "What do you know about this?" he asked softly. She looked at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, but she did not answer. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, folded paper. She handed it to him with trembling hands. Unfolding the paper, the leader saw strange symbols and a list of names, some crossed out, some underlined. It was a map of secrets, people who had been taken, betrayed, or lost. The girl's tattoo suddenly made sense. It was more than a mark of survival. It was a code, a key to a hidden network. The leader's mind raced. This was a message, a call for help, and a warning all at once. The girl's story began to unfold not in words, but in fragments and glances. Flashbacks came to the leader like sharp flashes of lightning. He saw a younger version of her running through the ruins of a city, chased by shadows that wanted to silence her. He saw her tattoo glowing under moonlight, a beacon of hope and resistance. He saw betrayal by those she trusted most, and a desperate fight for freedom that left scars deeper than any wound. The leader realized that the girl was not just a survivor. She was a fighter with a mission. But what was that mission? Who were the enemies lurking in the shadows, and how did the tattoo connect her to a past that refused to die? He wanted to ask, to break the silence, but he knew he had to wait for her to choose to speak. As dawn broke, the leader and the girl returned to the base with the metal box and the paper. The SEAL team gathered, listening to the leader's quiet explanation. They knew the danger was far from over. Someone powerful was behind the attack on the outpost, and the girl's tattoo was a clue to unraveling the mystery. But who could they trust? The leader's eyes scanned his team, looking for answers, for loyalty, for strength. That night, the girl sat alone again, the weight of memories pressing down on her. She traced the tattoo once more, feeling the pain and hope intertwined in its lines. She wanted to speak, to share the burden, but the words were trapped inside. Instead, she wrote in the notebook for the first time, her handwriting shaky but determined. She wrote about the fire that took her family, the soldier who saved her, and the secret she carried, one that could change everything. The leader found the notebook the next morning. He read her words slowly, feeling the raw emotion and the courage it took to reveal even a part of her truth. He realized that this was just the beginning of a long journey, a journey of trust, healing, and confronting the ghosts of the past. He promised himself that he would protect her, help her, and listen when she was ready. But the silence was fragile. Somewhere in the shadows, enemies were watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. The tattoo was a symbol of hope, but also a target. The leader and the girl were now bound by fate, their lives intertwined in a battle that was more than physical. It was emotional, psychological, and deeply personal. As the base prepared for what was coming, the leader looked at the girl one last time before the sun set. She still said nothing, but her tattoo spoke louder than ever, a story of pain, strength, and the silent promise to rise again. The night was thick with silence as the base prepared for the next move. The girl sat by herself near the edge of the camp, her eyes fixed on the dark forest that seemed to hold endless secrets. Her tattoo, the phoenix with wings spread wide, seemed to glow faintly under the moonlight, like a silent guardian watching over her. The air smelled of earth and smoke, memories of battles fought and lives lost. She clutched the leather notebook tightly, the only place where her thoughts dared to escape the prison of silence. Inside the base, the SEAL leader was planning the next steps. The metal box they found at the outpost weighed heavily on his mind. It was locked, but he had seen the paper with symbols and names, the map of a dangerous game he was only beginning to understand. He knew the girl was connected to it all, but how and why remained a mystery. The pieces of the puzzle were scattered, and he had to find a way to put them together before it was too late. The girl's silence was no longer just a wall. It was a fortress. But tonight, something was different. As the camp settled into uneasy rest, a sudden noise from the forest broke the quiet. The leader was the first to rise, signaling his team to prepare for possible danger. The girl's eyes widened, but she remained still, her body tensed like a coiled spring. The firelight flickered on her tattoo, making the wings seem alive, ready to protect or take flight. Suddenly, from the shadows, a figure appeared, a man dressed in dark clothes. Moving swiftly and silently toward the camp, the SEALs reacted. Instantly, weapons drawn, eyes sharp. The intruder stopped just short of the firelight, hands raised to show he meant no harm. The leader stepped forward cautiously. "Who are you?" he demanded. The man's voice was low but urgent. "I come with a warning. The people you chase are closer than you think, and they know about the girl. They want her gone." The camp fell into tense silence. The leader looked at the girl, whose face remained unreadable. The stranger's words confirmed the danger they had feared but could not yet see clearly. The girl finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. "They took everything from me once. If they find me again, there will be no escape." The words were few, but carried the weight of 1,000 battles. The SEAL leader felt a chill. Her silence was breaking, but the story behind the tattoo was darker and deeper than he had imagined. The stranger explained that the metal box was a key, a device containing information that could expose a powerful network involved in war crimes, corruption, and betrayal. The girl's tattoo was a symbol used by a secret resistance fighting against this network. She was one of the last survivors, carrying messages and secrets that could bring down those who had destroyed her life and countless others. The leader realized that protecting her was not just about saving one life, but about fighting a war that had spread its roots into places he had never known. As the night grew colder, the leader and the girl talked quietly for the first time. She told fragments of her past, the betrayal by those she trusted, and the painful choice to run and hide. The tattoo was not only a mark of survival, but a sign of a promise she had made to herself and the resistance to never give up, to rise from the ashes no matter how many times she fell. Her silence had been her shield. But now she understood she could not fight alone. The next days were filled with preparation and quiet tension. The SEAL team trained harder, knowing that an attack could come at any moment. The leader and the girl grew closer, the silence between them slowly melting into understanding and trust. He saw her not just as a survivor, but as a warrior with a cause. Her tattoo became a symbol for the team too, a reminder of the strength found in pain and the power of hope. But danger was closing in. Late one night, the camp was rocked by explosions. Enemy forces attacked, fierce and sudden. The SEALs fought bravely, but the girl's knowledge of the enemy's tactics and the secret map from the metal box became crucial. She led the team through hidden paths and traps, her silence replaced by actions that saved lives. The tattoo on her arm seemed to guide her, a beacon of light in the chaos. After the battle, as the dust settled and the wounded were tended, the leader looked at the girl with new respect. She had shown courage beyond words, turning her pain into power, but the fight was far from over. The tattoo was more than a symbol, it was a call to arms, and the enemy knew it. They would come again, stronger and more ruthless. The girl and the SEAL leader sat together under the stars, the night quiet once more but filled with unspoken promises. She finally wrote in the notebook again, her hands steady, telling the story of the battle and the hope that still burned inside her. The leader read her words and felt a surge of determination. Together, they would face whatever came next. The tattoo had spoken volumes, and now the silence was breaking. The morning after the battle was heavy with quiet and pain. The base was still, the soldiers tending their wounds. The girl sitting apart from everyone, her tattoo catching the soft light of dawn. She touched it gently, the phoenix wings seeming to pulse beneath her skin, as if alive with the memories they held. That tattoo was more than just ink, it was a reminder of every loss she had suffered, every betrayal she had survived, and every fight she had yet to face. But beneath that strength was a fragile heart, beating fast with fear and hope. The SEAL leader watched her from a distance, seeing the weight she carried. He knew she was brave, but bravery was not the absence of pain. He wanted to reach out, to break through her silence, but the walls she built were thick. Instead, he sent a messenger with the leather notebook, hoping she might find a way to share more of her story. Hours passed with no response. Finally, in the quiet of the evening, she opened the notebook and began to write, not just drawings or symbols this time, but words. Simple words filled with raw emotion. She wrote about the people she lost, the promise she made to fight for those who could not, and the fear that the enemy was closer than ever. As she wrote, her mind drifted back to a night many years ago, a night she had tried to forget. Her village had been surrounded. Men with cold eyes and cruel hands had come to take everything: her family, her home, her future. She had hidden in the shadows, clutching a small keepsake from her mother, feeling the fire of destruction around her. The tattoo had been her first act of defiance, a silent scream against the darkness that threatened to consume her. She remembered the pain, the loss, and the burning desire to survive. That memory was the core of her strength, the reason she could never stay silent. The SEAL leader read her words carefully, feeling the depth of her pain and the courage in her silence. He realized that to truly help her, he needed to do more than protect her body. He had to protect her spirit. He invited her to train with the team, not as a passive observer, but as a fighter. At first, she hesitated, unsure if she could trust herself or others again. But something in the leader's steady gaze gave her courage. Slowly, she began to move with them, her body learning the rhythm of strength and discipline, her heart finding a new kind of hope. The training was grueling, pushing her limits. But with every step, the girl felt her silence start to break. The tattoo on her arm was a constant reminder of her past, but the sweat and effort were signs of a future she was building. The SEALs respected her more each day, not just for her skills but for the quiet bravery she showed. The leader saw the change to a woman rising from ashes, not just surviving but fighting to reclaim her life. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, the girl was practicing combat moves when suddenly, a message came through the radio. The enemy was moving closer, their plans faster than expected. The leader gathered the team, and the girl listened closely. This was no longer just about survival. It was about stopping the enemy from destroying more lives. She felt the weight of the tattoo heavier than ever. This was the symbol of a war she had been part of long before coming here. That night, the base was on high alert. The girl sat with the leader, both knowing the danger ahead. For the first time, she spoke softly. "They took my family to silence me, but my tattoo is my voice now." The leader nodded, understanding the power in her words. They were no longer just two broken souls. They were warriors united by pain, hope, and a fight for justice. As the stars shone overhead, the girl wrote in her notebook again, telling the story of her family, the night of fire, and the promise that kept her alive. The tattoo on her arm seemed to glow softly in the moonlight, a silent vow to fight, to rise, and to never be forgotten. The battle ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, the girl felt ready. Her silence was breaking, and her voice was about to be heard. The days that followed were tense, every moment filled with quiet preparation. The girl trained harder than ever, her body moving with a strength that surprised even the seasoned SEALs. Each punch, each step, was a battle not just against the enemy outside, but the shadows inside her. Her tattoo, the phoenix, felt like a living force guiding her, reminding her she was not just a victim, but a warrior reborn. The leader watched her with growing respect, seeing how her silence was changing into determination, but trust was still fragile. Some in the team whispered doubts. Who was she really? What secrets was she hiding? The girl felt their eyes on her, measuring her, testing her silence. She wanted to answer, to break down the walls, but fear held her back. Her past had taught her that trust was dangerous, that betrayal could come from those closest. Yet the leader stood by her, a steady presence in the storm, reminding her that she was not alone. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, the leader found her sitting alone, the notebook open on her lap. He sat quietly beside her, waiting for her to speak. After a long moment, she looked up, her eyes full of pain and hope. "I want to tell you everything," she said softly, "but the words are heavy. I'm afraid they will break me." The leader nodded, understanding that some stories are too painful to share all at once. "Take your time," he said. "I'm here when you're ready." That night, the girl wrote more in the notebook, revealing pieces of her past: a lost brother who had fought alongside her, a betrayal by those they trusted, and the reason behind her silence. She told of a secret mission, a message hidden in her tattoo meant for the resistance fighting in the shadows. The tattoo was a code, a map of safe places and dangers, written in a language only a few could read. She had carried it for years, running from enemies who wanted to silence her forever. The leader read her words carefully, piecing together a story of courage and loss that mirrored his own battles. He realized that protecting her was more than a duty, it was a chance to fight for something greater. Together they planned the next steps, using the clues in the tattoo and the notebook to find allies and prepare for the fight ahead. But betrayal lurked closer than they knew. One night, a trusted member of the SEAL team disappeared, taking with him important information about their mission. The leader's heart sank. The enemy had a spy inside. The girl's fears were not just memories, they were real and dangerous. The tattoo, once a symbol of hope, now felt like a beacon drawing the enemy near. The leader confronted the traitor, but the spy escaped into the night. The team was shaken, trust fractured. The girl's silence deepened, the weight of betrayal heavy on her shoulders. But the leader refused to let fear win. He rallied the team, reminding them of their mission and the strength they found in each other. The girl, inspired by his courage, stood taller, her tattoo shining in the dawn light like a promise of resilience. As the enemy closed in, the girl and the leader prepared for a final stand. The tattoo was no longer just ink, it was a symbol of survival, rebellion, and the unbreakable spirit within. The battle ahead would test them all, but they were ready to fight not just for themselves, but for everyone who had been silenced before them. Under the cold stars, the girl wrote one last message in the notebook before the fight. "Silence is my armor, but my tattoo is my voice. I will rise." The leader read the words and felt the fire of hope burn brighter. Together, they stepped into the night, ready to face whatever darkness awaited, knowing their story was just beginning. The night was heavy with tension as the team gathered around the dim glow of the campfire. The girl sat quietly beside the SEAL leader, her tattoo barely visible under the fading light. The air was thick with unspoken fears and the weight of the coming battle. Every face around the fire told a story of pain, loss, and determination. The enemy was closing in, their presence felt but unseen, like a shadow creeping closer to swallow them whole. The leader looked at the girl and saw not just a survivor but a symbol of Hoopa Phoenix, ready to rise from the ashes once more. Plans were laid out carefully, each step calculated to outsmart the enemy. The metal box they had recovered held secrets vital to their mission, and the girl's tattoo was the key to unlocking those secrets. It was a code embedded in the wings of the Phoenix, a map to hidden caches, safe houses, and allies waiting in the darkness. The leader traced the lines on her arm with his eyes, memorizing the patterns that could save their lives. Trust between the team had grown stronger, but the threat of betrayal still lingered in the corners of their minds. As the night deepened, the girl spoke softly for the first time in days. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of years of silence. She explained how the tattoo was designed by the resistance she once fought with, a network of brave souls who risked everything to expose the truth behind the enemy's cruelty. Her silence had been her shield, but now, with the leader and his team, she felt safe enough to share the burden. Every word was a step toward healing, a bridge between her past and the uncertain future. Suddenly, a sharp noise cut through the night, the crack of a twig snapping under heavy footsteps. The team tensed instantly, weapons raised and eyes scanning the darkness. From the shadows emerged a figure, a messenger from the resistance, carrying urgent news. The enemy had discovered a new plan, a secret meeting that could turn the tide of the war. The leader nodded, signaling the team to prepare for immediate action. The girl's tattoos seemed to pulse with energy, guiding them toward the next phase of their mission. As dawn approached, the team moved stealthily through the forest, following the map hidden in the tattoo's intricate design. The girl led the way, her steps sure and silent. Every moment was a test of trust and courage. The enemy spies were everywhere, and one wrong move could mean disaster. The leader watched her closely, admiring her strength and the quiet determination that had replaced her fear. Her tattoo was no longer just a mark of survival, it was a beacon of resistance and hope. They reached the location just as the sun began to rise up, a small clearing where the enemy had gathered for the secret meeting. The leader signaled his team to hold position, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The girl's heart pounded in her chest, memories of betrayal and loss fueling her resolve. She knew this mission was more than a fight for survival. It was a chance to end the nightmare that had haunted her for years. The attack was swift and precise. The SEALs moved like shadows, taking the enemy by surprise. The girl fought with a fierce grace, her movements guided by years of pain and training. The tattoo on her arm felt alive, a symbol of the strength that had carried her through every battle. As the enemy retreated, the team secured the meetings, secret documents, proof of corruption, lies, and cruelty that could expose the enemy once and for all. After the fight, the leader and the girl stood together, the first light of day casting long shadows. She looked at her tattoo, now a symbol of victory and hope. "This is only the beginning," she said quietly. The leader nodded, knowing that the road ahead would be long and dangerous. But for the first time, they faced it not as broken souls, but as warriors united by pain, trust, and a shared promise to rise. As they returned to the base, the girl took out her notebook and began to write again, her story, unfolding in words and symbols, a testament to the silence that had spoken volumes. The leader read her words and felt the fire of hope burning brighter than ever. Together, they prepared for the battles yet to come, knowing their fight was far from over. The days that followed were tense and full of restless energy. The girl and the SEAL team worked tirelessly, using the secrets uncovered in the enemy's meeting to prepare for the next moves. Every plan was layered with caution, every step shadowed by the fear of betrayal or surprise attack. The leader watched the girl closely. Her silence was no longer just silence but a shield slowly breaking down. Her tattoo, once a mark of pain, was becoming a symbol of their shared mission. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with fiery reds and purples, the girl stood at the edge of the base, staring out into the distance. The wind caught her hair, and for a moment she seemed lost in thought, far away from the war and violence surrounding her. The leader approached quietly, sitting beside her without a word. She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the fading light, and, for the first time, she spoke without hesitation. "I am tired," she said softly, "but I cannot stop, not yet." Her words held a raw honesty that touched the leader deeply. He understood the weight she carried, the burden of memories that refused to fade, and the hope that refused to die. He spoke gently. "You don't have to carry it alone. We are here with you." She nodded, the hint of a smile breaking through her guarded expression. The connection between them grew stronger, built on trust, pain, and a shared determination. That night, the girl opened a leather notebook and began to write. Her words were a mix of memories and hopes, a bridge between her past and the uncertain future. She wrote about the day her village was destroyed, the faces she lost, and the promise she made to rise again. The tattoo on her arm seemed to pulse as if alive, telling a story of survival and rebellion. The leader read her words and felt a surge of determination to protect her and the mission they shared. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by a loud explosion at the base's perimeter. Alarms blared and the team rushed to their positions. The enemy had launched a surprise attack, aiming to destroy the base and capture the girl. Chaos erupted as bullets flew, and soldiers fought fiercely to defend their home. The girl moved with deadly precision, her training and instincts sharpening every moment. The tattoo on her arm glowed in the firelighter symbol of strength and defiance. The leader fought beside her, his heart pounding not just with adrenaline but with a fierce protectiveness. They were no longer just leader and silent survivor. They were partners in battle, united by pain and purpose. The fight was brutal and close, but the SEALs held their ground, driving the enemy back into the darkness. The base was safe, for now, but the attack was a harsh reminder of the dangers they faced. After the battle, as the wounded were cared for, and the fires died down, the girl sat quietly, the weight of the fight settling on her shoulders. The leader joined her, offering silent support. She looked at her tattoo, tracing the phoenix wings with trembling fingers. "It's not just my story anymore," she said softly. "It's ours." The leader nodded, knowing that their journey was no longer about one person's survival, but about a shared fight for justice and hope. As dawn broke, the girl and the leader prepared to send the secrets from the metal box to allies who could help expose the enemy. The tattoo was their guide, a map of resistance and hope in a world filled with darkness. Together, they faced the uncertain future not as broken souls, but as warriors ready to rise again. The sun had barely risen when the base received an urgent message. The Allies had confirmed receiving the secret files from the metal box, and the resistance was ready to move. But with this victory came new dangers. The enemy was furious, their grip tightening as they hunted those who dared to fight back. The SEAL leader gathered his team, eyes fierce with determination. The girl stood beside him, her tattoo visible in the morning light, a symbol of the journey they had shared and the battles still ahead. For the first time, the girl agreed to speak openly with the team. Her voice was steady but filled with emotion. As she recounted the cost of war, the loss of family, friends, and trust, she told them about the secret network her tattoo represented, a web of courage and sacrifice stretching across the land. The SEALs listened in silence, their respect for her growing with every word. She was no longer just a silent survivor. She was a leader in her own right, a beacon of hope and resistance. The leader watched her closely, feeling the bond between them deepen. They had come a long way from the day she arrived in silence. Her story was now part of theirs, and her tattoo was a living reminder of the fight they all carried in their hearts. But as the team prepared for the next mission, the leader knew the enemy would not give up easily. The stakes were higher, and the risks greater than ever. That evening, under the cover of darkness, the team set out on a dangerous journey to deliver the remaining secrets to hidden allies deep in enemy territory. The girl led the way, her steps sure despite the weight of fear and memories pressing down on her. The tattoo on her arm seemed to glow faintly, guiding them through the shadows like a silent compass. The forest was thick and unforgiving, every sound a potential threat as they moved forward. The girl's mind drifted back to her brother, the only family she had left before the war tore them apart. She remembered his laughter, his bravery, and the promise they made to protect each other no matter what. That promise had been broken, but the tattoo carried their shared hope, a hope that one day, justice would prevail, and they would rise from the ashes together. Suddenly, the team was ambushed. Enemy forces, waiting in the darkness, attacked with ruthless precision. The battle was fierce and chaotic, every moment a fight for survival. The girl fought with all her strength, her tattoo burning bright as a symbol of defiance and courage. The SEAL leader covered her, his own scars fueling his determination. Together, they pushed back the enemy, but the cost was high wounds, loss, and the harsh reminder that trust was fragile. After the fight, the team regrouped in a hidden safe house. The girl's silence returned, heavier than before. The leader sat beside her, offering quiet strength. "You don't have to carry this alone," he said softly. She nodded, the first tears breaking free. "I'm ready," she whispered. The notebook was open again, and this time, the girl began to write not just her story, but a message to the resistance, a call for unity and strength. The leader read her words and felt the fire of hope rekindle. The tattoo on her arm was no longer just a mark of survival. It was a symbol of resilience and the unbreakable spirit of those who refused to be silenced. Together, they prepared to face whatever came next, knowing the fight was far from over but confident in their strength and in each other. The base was quiet that morning, but beneath the calm, the tension was thick and growing. The girl stood outside, her tattoo catching the light, a quiet blaze against her skin. The SEAL leader approached, his footsteps steady, carrying the weight of many battles. They exchanged a glance full of unspoken words, pain, hope, and the promise to keep fighting. Today, their mission was clear but dangerous, to infiltrate the enemy's stronghold. and deliver the final evidence that could bring down the corrupt leaders hiding behind masks of power. As they prepared, the girl felt the familiar surge of fear. Mixed with determination, the tattoo on her arm felt warmer, almost alive, as if it recognized the importance of this moment. The past and present collided inside her, a memory of the night her village was burned, her family lost, and the secret, the mission that had begun long ago. She had carried the pain in silence, but now, she was ready to face it head-on. The team moved out under the cover of darkness, guided by the map hidden within the tattoo. The girl led the way, her every step a silent prayer, every breath a promise to those she had lost. The forest gave way to rocky terrain, and the enemy's fortress loomed ahead, a dark fortress surrounded by walls and watchtowers, a symbol of the cruelty they fought against. Inside the fortress, the enemy was already on alert. The leader's team moved like shadows, avoiding patrols and security cameras, every second a test of nerves and skill. The girl's tattoo guided them through hidden paths, secret tunnels, and forgotten doors, a silent map etched into her skin that kept them alive. But danger was everywhere, the enemy's traps, guards, and spies waiting to strike. As they reached the heart of the fortress, the girl paused, feeling the weight of history pressing down. She thought of her brother, the promise they made, and the tattoo that had become her voice. The leader placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We're here with you," he said softly. She nodded, drawing strength from the team's trust and her own growing courage. The mission was a success. They retrieved the final evidence, documents, videos, and records exposing the enemy's crimes. But escaping was not easy. The fortress alarm blared, and the enemy closed in fast. The team fought fiercely, each member pushing beyond pain and fear. The girl's tattoo seemed to burn brighter with every moment, a symbol of hope and rebellion. As they broke free into the night, the leader looked at the girl with pride. She had risen from silence to strength, from pain to power. Her story was no longer just hers. It was the story of everyone who had been silenced and forgotten. The tattoo spoke volumes, and now, the world would hear it loud and clear. Back at the base, the evidence was shared with allies, sparking a wave of resistance and hope. The girl and the leader stood side by side, ready to face whatever came next. The fight was far from over, but together, they were unstoppably a phoenix, rising from ashes, stronger than ever. The final days at the base were filled with quiet hope and fierce preparation. The girl stood with the SEAL leader and the team, each of them changed by the battles they had faced and the losses they had endured. Her tattoo, the phoenix with its wings spread wide, had become a symbol not only of her survival but of the resistance's spirit. It spoke volumes, telling a story of pain, courage, and the promise to rise, no matter how dark the night. News came that the enemy was regrouping, for one last attempt to crush the resistance. This would be the final fight. The girl and the leader knew they had to be ready, not just with weapons and plans but with the strength of their hearts and the unity they had built. The tattoo was more than a mark. It was a silent vow that echoed through every fiber of their being. The night before the battle, the girl sat alone beneath the stars, the leather notebook open on her lap. She traced the lines of her tattoo softly, remembering the journey from silence and fear to strength and voice. Memories of her family, her brother, the friends lost and found, all were woven into the ink on her skin. She wrote one last message in the notebook, a promise to herself and those she fought for. "I am no longer silent. I am the voice of the broken, the strength of the fallen. I will rise." The battle came at dawn, a storm of fire, noise, and courage. The SEAL team moved with fierce determination, the girl leading many charges, her tattoo shining like a beacon. Every strike was fueled by the memories etched into her skin and the hope of a better future. The enemy was relentless, but so was their spirit. In the heat of battle, the leader and the girl fought side by side, their trust and bond stronger than ever. The girl's silence was gone, replaced by the roar of her courage and the power of her story. They pushed the enemy back, breaking the hold they had on the land. The battle was long and hard, but the dawn brought victory as the sun rose. The girl looked at her tattoo, a symbol of survival and rebirth. Around her, the team celebrated, but she knew the true victory was deeper. The silence had been broken, the scars had spoken, and the future was theirs to shape. The leader came to her side, proud and hopeful. Together, they looked toward a new day. The girl opened the notebook and began to read aloud, her voice clear and strong. She told the story of pain, loss, and hope, the story behind the tattoo that had spoken volumes when words could not. Her voice carried across the camp, touching every heart. The team listened, tears and smiles mixing as they heard the journey of a girl who had become a warrior, a leader, and a symbol. Her story went viral beyond the base, inspiring countless others to stand up and find their voices. The tattoo that once marked pain now marked courage and change. The girl, once silent, became a legend, a living proof that even the deepest scars could speak the loudest truths. Basil, leader, and the girl stood together as the sun climbed higher. The fight had changed them, but it had also given them something precious, a future built on trust, hope, and the power to rise again. The tattoo had spoken volumes, and now the world was listening.